to what it is today. So that's just my feedback.
That is actually really good. I really agree with a lot of what you just said, and I'm really beat out a blueprint, because the beauty of my work is I also get to work with corporates and the founders. So it's a little bit of knowing the in-between, because ultimately we all want the contract, we want the pilot with the corporate. I think what Alan just said is like identifying those first features and letting those be informed by your market. Like I think you all said, it's like listening to whoever you're trying to sell to and building your first few features off of that. Here's what I would say though, and you're like, okay, well I know the features, but maybe I need that software developer money. Where is that coming from? Leveraging that contract in order to actually build what you need to be, what you need to have built. And so most times what I see with pilots is people always are undercharging. So like, okay, for my first pilot, I just need $10,000. That's how much it's going to be. But you know the developer needs $50,000 to finish the feature. So I would say like, when you identify whatever that is that you need to make sure your product can offer, when you are looking at, okay, I've had conversations with these people, I've built rapport, I am at that point where I want to go ahead and start making some money and getting that traction by having a pilot, you need to be leveraging, okay, it's almost like when you're at the hair salon, and you know when you get your hair done, and you're like, okay girl, how much I owe you? And she be like, my light bill is this, and my phone bill is that. That is exactly how you need to be leveraging whatever your expenses are versus how much you need to be charging for that pilot. And if it seems too egregious, you're like, I can't go in there and ask these people for $70,000. This is where phases come into. Hey, would you guys, I'm gonna offer this first feature first. This is going to be phase 1 of my first pilot. If I meet set deliverables, I would like that other part as well. You need payment too. And then using that money to then build whatever you need to build. This is how you're also able to build whatever you need to without compromising your equity. Because this is all just a sale at the end of the day.
I completely agree. And I've seen this approach in the past, and we've used it some at database checks. So the thing is that you want to be able to get customers before you start building. Right? And so there's a 3-step approach called demo, where you show the MVP or the pictures of what you want to build with those key features. Right? You get those customers or those prospects very interested, and then you start selling and saying, hey, if you could have these 3 features, how much would you pay for this software? How much would you pay for this service? Right? And they give you a number. And you say, okay, well that's a start. It's a little bit higher. But what it does is it starts to fund your ability to start building your product. Right? And so that's part 3 of it. Once you get those committed prospects / customers who give you those dollars, then you go take those dollars, and then you go find talented software developers, people that can then help you to build out your product in a way that then comes back again, all the way to start again, and then you go and demo that product a little bit more, get some more dollars through pre-sales essentially, and then you reinvest those dollars into your building process.
Right, and as a VC, this is how Cornell is able to strong arm me at the term sheet. With the traction that I got, I'm not going to give you 30%. This is how you build yourself leverage for whatever rooms you're walking into when it's actually, okay, now I would actually just like to have the capital to go ahead and get this built. This traction is what then allows you to be able to negotiate a little bit stronger. There's nothing like leverage, especially as a Black founder.
So, on Instagram, they have the entrepreneur gurus that always say there's no bad time to start. Start today, start now. You'll never be ready. How do you guys feel about that? As far as when is it time to actually go to market to be successful?
You guys, y'all actually know how I got started. So I happened to be walking on the sidewalk with my mom, and we were walking by some type of economic development impact organization. And they're like, yeah, this is where the business is, that we help all these startup founders. And she's like, my daughter wants to start a business. I said, what? I want to start. Lord have mercy. And that was like a catalyst moment to being in an incubator. To the being, I'm like, I guess I really do need to have a business pitch. She ain't even asked me what I do want to start. I had no idea. But then those challenges of like, okay, well, what do you want to do? Okay, well, I want to do this. And then there's the natural refinement that then comes with people asking me these questions over time. And so I'm a little bit biased. I work for an accelerator company, one of the largest in the world, Techstars. My whole thing is to be like, Rae'Mah, I'm not ready for no accelerator. I'm not ready for what have you. Plus, they're not going to grant me a second glance. If you think you're way too early, let me go ahead and tell you how to manipulate the process. Get something out of your application, because ultimately, I need you a lot more than you need me. And so when you're on these calls with accelerators, obviously the application process in itself, if you haven't started already, is going to get you to a baseline, okay? Solution statement, problem statement, your first deck, recording yourself on video. When you get to that first interview call, ask them questions. So, do you have any, concerns or hesitations about considering me for your program? Is there any reason why you think this wouldn't be a viable company that you want part of your portfolio? Can you give me homework? And you're like, damn, now I'm not being your coach. But that's ultimately what it turns into. So I would say leveraging just the application process, even if you don't get in. And crazy enough, when you look that consistent, when you come across that charismatic and that intrigue, that's actually what gets you accepted into those programs. So that's what I say.
I would say you just have to get started. I mean, you just have to start. It's no specific, you're not going to know everything. You're not going to know everything. How I started, what my plan was, what my idea and my platform that I was working on initially is not where I'm at today. I was focused on innovating diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you see what's going on with the political market, and I did that 4 years prior. I told you I spoke to over 500 chiefs of diversity, equity, and inclusion officers. But I still, focused on wanting to create economic pipeline within our community, and so I stronghold that. And so now I'm in procurement, and I'm having conversations with Gardner about being the innovator of autonomous sourcing, because I created and had a dream about an RFP matching AI thing that I didn't even know could work. Here we are. So, you don't know where your journey is going to land you. I never knew that I would live in Salt Lake City, Utah at one point, San Francisco at one point, DC at one point. I never thought that I would be in certain rooms with different founders and investors, even speaking on stages like this. I was a solo founder when I first started. I couldn't get anybody to help me with my idea. Now I have 7 people that work on my team, 2 people who have exits, and college students reaching out to me every single day asking can they help build, because we're using some of the most innovative technologies in our stack. And even still, I still reach out to a lot of mentors. I have a lot of OGs that I call every day and ask, how can I be a better leader? I've never done this before, right? So I'm always a student to the process. So I don't believe it's no perfect time. The time is now. And also understanding that when it comes to technology, it's a 5-year process. So you shouldn't be innovating for right now. You should be looking at the future. And so when your time comes, it's going to be specifically meant for you. Right now, we're dealing with all of the things around supply chain and goods and services and things of that such. So that's why the influx of need around the product that I'm building right now is such a need. It's called Future of Work. That's the category. So you can start today. It may take you 10 years. And I'll suggest if you haven't, go to TechCrunch. Look at all the unicorn tech companies that you love, the Googles, the Facebook. Go all the way down, and I want you to see how long it took them to get their first investment or inflation capital. Roblox, it took them 10 years. They're out in the 90s. okay? Like, look at all of this, and it may look like overnight success at first glance, but it's not. So just go ahead and start the process.
When to start? That's a tough question with an easy answer. The best time was yesterday, I've been told, and the next best time is today. And I'm working with early stage founders over the last couple of years. One of the things I found was that the reluctance to start stemmed from the lack of confidence. Can I really do this? Are they going to like my product? Am I going to go bankrupt? I've been having those thoughts as Alan was talking about the initiative to start. I was thinking back on the first time I started a business, and this was going back to 1992. I was in high school, and ever since then I just wanted to start, and I've started a number of businesses. But the thing that I encourage each and every person, if you haven't yet started a company and you want to, or you want to restart, is that it's not about the confidence, because I don't have the confidence. I didn't have the confidence from day one. What I had was the courage. And if you have that courage to take that first step, right, that will help you build that confidence. And then take the next step, and then the next step. But I want to be very clear between the difference between courage and confidence. Courage is the mindset that ability to take a step in the face of the unknown. But confidence only comes from doing that thing over and over and over again until you feel like you've mastered it. Right? You won't have that as a founder on day one. You may not have it for years. That's okay. Figure it out. The most important thing is to have the courage to start and be clear about why you started, so that others that you meet along your journey are able to say, hey, that guy, he's really good with supply chain management. That person is really good with VC investors for startups, right? Be ready to start, be courageous, and then take that first step.
If I could add on to that too, you said two words, courageousness and confidence. But I think another thing you'll find on your journey is that you will discover more capacity in yourself. And I think some of the hardest things when working with Black founders that I've had to do, outside of the normal mentoring and resources, is that there's a lot of inner work that comes with being a Black founder. Sometimes it's the money wounds. It is how much do I deserve? It is worthiness issues. Those are going to be the biggest stumbling blocks actually on your path that you're going to face. You'd be like, oh my God, fundraising is going to be so tough. No, it's actually going to be going into the room and asking for $1 million and feeling like you deserve it. Those are the things that, even if you're like, well, where do I start? Those are things you can start doing right now. So much more than having the best idea or having the best execution. Actually, the biggest reflection of yourself is how much you've worked on yourself and how much inner work that you've done. And that is actually, I think, Candace, we're going to talk about resilience, so that plays a lot into that.
So let's talk about resilience. I want to touch on something Alan said about the no's at first. So how do you guys pick yourselves up after the no's? Because 90% of entrepreneurs starting businesses fail. 63% of tech startups fail. How would you tell them to be resilient, longevity, and to be in that 10-year roadblock? And then, how are you guys going to tell them to be resilient? What do you guys think?
Well, I've had to be really resilient throughout my entire journey. I mean, I can just say you can't give up. We were talking earlier, a lot of us, we're making good money. I was working in tech, I was making good money. I was comfortable, I was at the peak of my career. I was living in San Francisco, rent was $2,500. And I quit all of that to start a business that I can tell you this. I originally thought it was going to take me 6 months to start a startup company. I was out of my mind. Okay? So I was like, oh, I got a couple money in this 401k. Let me pull this out. Everything will be okay. It's been a 5-year journey. I've had to make a lot of sacrifices. I've had to sacrifice a lot of relationships. That's the molding that you're going to go through in the journey. So sometimes that's also a part of the entire launching process. Because sometimes as a founder, there's some redirection and molding of character and understanding within knowledge in different spaces. This is a space where there's 0.002% Black founders, right? Building out relationships within the overall space, understanding that you need allies in this space to be successful, and how to leverage those relationships. And so, as good as your idea, you may not be ready. So, and that's the sacrifice that you make. And so, I've been blessed on my journey because I've been obedient to the path. There's people and resources. I haven't even had to pay for any of the tools and technologies that we use to build. I have people who are doing $100,000 worth of work on sweat equity because they believe in not only the vision but what I'm doing. So, you know, I just count it all joy every single day because I do talk to founders that go through TechStars programs and other VC. They received funding and they thought capital was going to solve their problems, but they didn't know how to show up in these rooms. They didn't know about lead generation, demand gen, how to scale marketing, go to market. They've never worked in tech before. How to have a go-to-market strategy. They just had a whole bunch of traction with no business acumen and no relationships with the overall, so they weren't able to scale. And so you only get one chance because there's no data around Black founders that show success metrics in the overall capacity of the market. So it's not like you're going to be able to raise $500,000 or $1 million, you know, and drop the ball and do that over and over again. You just don't have that ability. And so you're going to have resilience. You're going to have grit. I would say you're going to have to be a student. You're going to have to always be learning and not feel like, once again, you're the smartest person in the room. There's people that have been doing this, been successful, and, you know, their journey may be different than yours. But there's certain parts, there's engines behind TechStars, there's engines behind Sequoia Capital, there's engines behind YC that allows these companies to be successful and get to unicorn level $100 million ARR. If you knew how to do it, you would need these resources. And so you have to be open to learn, and then there's not going to be this roadblock of frustration every single time you hit a path and you fail. You use that failure to continue to grow and prosper.
But I want to acknowledge again the path to execution for a startup is very winding and it's at times very scary. So I'm going to ask the tech founders, how many days of the week are you scared to your core? 7 for me. 7 days a week, right? And I'll give you a couple of things that have happened to me this year. One of the first things is I lost one of my customers, over one night, they just died. I was exchanging emails with them on a Friday. By Wednesday, they were no longer alive. I had worked with this person for over 5 years. So it was not just a business relationship, it was a personal relationship. That's one thing that happened a few months back. And then another thing is I had to lay off one of my most talented software engineers a few weeks ago. Not for any fault of his, but because we were pivoting to a particular part of our product that required a different skill set. So I had to let that software engineer go and hire a new one. So I'm sharing some of those quick stories about challenges on this journey because it requires, for me, it requires going back to my why. And I think of my why along with my purpose as a founder and a few other things as my compass. So as I'm walking through the journey as a tech founder, I'm getting battered left and right. Several times a day sometimes. And then I literally go back to my why, my purpose, my principles that center me and allows me to make the decisions necessary to move forward. So I encourage you to really be crystal clear about why you're doing this work, why you're a founder, the purpose of the work, the impact. Because in those darkest days, and there will be those dark days, it helps to provide that guiding light to you.
Thank you guys so much. That's the time that we have. The panelists will be here for a little time to answer any questions that you guys may have. They're going to be upstairs to the left. And if you guys could give them a round of applause. Thank you
Thank you so much. Our next session will be starting in 20 minutes at 3 o'clock. We'll be discussing funding paths and financing, bootstraps or regular VC funding. So we'll be starting at 3 o'clock.
Ladies in the middle. Yes.
Come on this side. I'm still looking for a two. Mark.
I'm about to jump into one too.
Yeah, jump in here.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
I'll jump.
You guys rock. Yes. Yes. Look, what? Please. Yeah. Thank you for taking off. Oh, sorry. No. It's going to be yeah. Absolutely.
Actually, my phone number, so I want to make sure. 205, 207, 77, 76. Nice to meet you.